So you've touched a lot of things that I wanted to ask you before, in particular about involving the client, the customer, the end user, product specification. All those things are very critical for this very early stage and are things that our ventures are learning. There is one thing that you haven't talked about, and I would like to ask a little bit more, and then I will ask the questions in the chat, which are also super interesting. So this week, our ventures are working on competitive advantage. So I'm curious, what advice would you give the audience in terms of gaining competitive advantage? It can be regarding the product, it can be regarding the team, or listening to the users, any kind of advice that you've learned in this time that you've been working on your venture. And we can start with Fernando this time.
Yeah, that reminds me a little bit of another advice that I got from some advisors, is that you have to acknowledge who's your competitor, all the competitors. So if in a pitch you say there's no competition, usually investors is like, okay, you don't know the market. It's almost impossible. It has to be really a disruptive technology, and that happens very, very few times in a lifetime that an investor sees some venture, some company that doesn't have competitors. So you have to do your research and find out who are your competitors and what is your value proposition and what you are doing different and what you are doing better. So how do you differentiate from others? In our case, it was patents from the university. All the work at the beginning was patented. That's how you create a barrier of entry for others. That's mainly the way that you can do it in drug development. And then there's a lot of know-how. So with this CRISPR stuff, they get to the news, but how do you use them? How do you use them properly? There's a lot of, you need some skills, there's some know-how that those are the two main barriers of entry that we can say, but patents and know-how.
That's going to be very useful for a lot of the people connected here who can patent their work for sure. What about you, Gio? What would you tell them?
Yeah, for me it was kind of different because there was nothing to patent really. I think we are not reinventing the wheel. Gynecologists have existed throughout time. And something that could differentiates, and this was much more theoretical in gaining competitive advantage, is you have a product or a service that already exists. You have two ways to make it better. Competitive advantage will be cost, and that is in services or products that are price sensitive. The other one is to make your product better than the other ones and increase the willingness to pay of the consumer. And the third one is to innovate in the product, and that is changing an aspect of it that will make it better. This could also be like increasing the price, reducing the cost, but just differentiating it. And for us, it meant that a service that it's not a utility, but it's something that people will go and they wouldn't understand if they like it or not, making that experience completely different. So we are changing the way a woman will go to a gynecologist in the design of the clinic, in the design of the customer journey, and just making healthcare that is so well, in Mexico, there's not a lot of marketing behind healthcare services. So just putting the business part of it to what it will normally be a normal healthcare service.
A lot of MBA professors will be so proud of your answer, because it was like a strategy final exam. It was all the points on point. What about you, Maria? What is an advice that you would give on competitive advantage?
Our case is similar to Gio's one. We don't have a patent either, and we are not reinventing. What we are doing is changing how healthcare professionals take care of their patients at home. And I think that in our case, for example, our competitors are all the e-health apps that are specialized in some pathologies, and we have to focus on what we make different. we are really focusing voice. We also can make apps, we can make skills for Alexa, we can make a lot of things, and we have those things also, but we focus our communication in what we are different. Also, we can care for patients that are not elderly. All of us can speak over the phone, and we are treating patients that are not elderly, but we focus our communication and our product roadmap in the elderly and in voice, because that is what in the areas we are best and in the areas we are different. So even if you can make different things, focus in what you are doing best and in what you are really different from the competitors.
Thank you so much, Maria. I think that's a really good advice for a lot of people who are now a little bit confused with which customer segment they want to choose. So, so for sure, pick one and then specialize on that one. And then I want to close with a very interesting question posed on the chat. So it's been too fast. The ventures that are participating in our program are doing all these in 4 months. So everything feels like, I mean, literally an acceleration. But I'm sure that whether you're in a program or not, everything feels very fast at the beginning, or you might feel lost. So now I want to ask a more open-ended question. So first, like it's on the chat, have you ever felt that suddenly things go too fast? How do you deal with that? And in general, more open, what is an advice that you would give to all the early stage entrepreneurs that are connected to this call or that who will watch the video later? Something that you would have liked to be told or that you were told and gave you a lot of energy to push forward. Maria, do you want to start?
Okay. Yeah, I think I feel that all the time, but there are weeks or months that I think, or I feel that things are going too slow. And then there is 1 week that everything is going super fast, and then again slow. Also in healthcare, things usually are slow, actually. But I think that it's a nice thing. Like you cannot, and you have to learn that you cannot manage the time, and you have to adapt. And that for that also is important to have the team, a perfect team that can help you with that. But yeah, I don't know if there was another question about not only the time, but another thing.
Yeah, so in general, if you want to give an advice to these early stage entrepreneurs who are a step behind you, what would you tell them to close?
In our case, what I think is that diligence is the mother of luck, and I think that you have to find something that you really love and you feel passion, and then have the patience to keep working until you get it, but find a why you are doing this.
Nice, thank you. What about you, Fernando?
Yeah, for me, it has never been too fast. It's always too slow. I want everything done by tomorrow. So yeah, it's like you need to keep moving. You need more results. You need more new stuff to tell the investors. You need so for me, that has never been too fast. It's like I want everything to go faster because I'm always worried about competition, that they can catch up. And we know that there are some companies that are in a stealth mode, that they got some funding and they are behind us right now. But who knows in the future? Who knows in 6 months? We want to be still ahead. So for me, it has always been too slow. Now, how to deal with your availability, hours, and time management? Yeah, you have to do sacrifices on your personal life, and you have to sleep less, and you have to, and then what Maria said, also delegating and saying, okay, you have to take care of that. You have to learn how to do that. It's like, okay, this is your responsibility. You are leading this part of the project, and I cannot do everything, obviously. So delegating is very important for time management. But yeah, obviously I'm saying this because I'm full-time. I don't know if some of the entrepreneurs now thinking about creating a startup, if they are just part-time, then things are different. Yeah, it depends case by case. So I'm talking from a full-time perspective.
So just a follow-up question to the earlier answer, Fernando. I mean, whether it's very fast or very slow, it can be a source of stress and you might feel like giving up. So what keeps you moving? Is it an intrinsic passion for the idea, or what is it?
Definitely is the passion, and is the thing that the idea that you are going to do something good and that you are going to be successful and that you can help patients. That's the driving force of everything, at least for me. But yeah.
Thank you. And what about you, Gio, to close with the best advice?
I think I'm more on Maria's side, that sometimes it just gets everything on top, and especially when you're trying to tackle like different functions at the same time, and then there's a fire in accounting and a fire in regulatory, and sometimes at the end of the day you just felt that you were just putting down fires instead of moving forward. A really good advice, and it's much more practical. I also worked, and as you said, Fernando, I was part-time for almost a year, and I've been full-time in the past few months. Something that really helped me, and this was much more like the engineering mind of like going into the detail, and sometimes I was way inside an analysis or a detail that took me 5 hours and then realized it didn't add as much value. It was not the 80-20 of my day. So I normally, before I start the day, I'll do a list and say, what are the things I will do? And then what are the things I cannot do and I won't do? And then sometimes I'll get distracted and go there in the analysis, or and then just look at the list, and this is not something that I need to do today. So much more on the time management. And then just realizing that there's some stuff, we were delayed in recruiting the team, and understanding what part of the business is core and what has to be done inside the business, and then what are the things that you can outsource. So just when thinking about the team, understanding that there is some stuff that you don't have to do because they're not core for your business, even though delegating or putting stuff of the business outside feels kind of weird at first.
I love that advice, and I'm going to apply it to myself as well. But I just want you, Gio, to explain very quickly what 80-20 is. I think it's a great concept that people will take a lot of advantage from, but I'm not sure everyone outside the consulting world.
Definitely, it changed my life. So the 80-20 is just before going to work, thinking and when you tackle a problem, what part of the problem will take 20% of my time, but will bring 80% of the value. And those normally are even, it could be in time, like when you have like 5 tasks and one will take you 5 minutes and the other 5 hours, and they're like equally important. In 5 minutes, you'll take away 20% of your time. So understanding time, capacity, stress, understanding what 20% of the work will bring 80% of the value. And then the last 20% of the value can be done throughout the day. You can outsource it, or you can just push it for another day. So
everyone write it down. But I love this. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Another way of going about it is that we did a quadrant of this is important, this is urgent, how important, how urgent. And then it's like, okay, we cannot do everything, but what needs to be done by yesterday and what can be done tomorrow. Everything is important, but the importance of all the things is not the same, and the urgency of those is not the same. So that's also another way of tackling what you have to do and what can wait. That's another time management of deciding what to tackle.
I really like that one. I think we're going to share those two later on the Slack of the program, so that you can all have it and reference it later. But an also reminder to myself as well to, remember these things and not get too lost in the details. But this was really so nice and so helpful for everything, so interesting. I really appreciate your time, that you joined us in different time zones and made your time available. So thank you so much. Please, everyone unmute and clap. because they deserve it. They deserve an unmute and clapping.